Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, today we're heading over to the old darker side of the web. Now, you might be like, well, Muta, is this like a Sunday deep web browsing video? Actually, we're going to tackle a couple of topics today, ladies and gentlemen. So, we've been talking a lot about privacy and safety and security for people. But, Muta, how am I going to stay in an internet that is respectful of my privacy? The reality is, if you're in the current era of the internet, if you're in like the current era right now, where things are headed to kind of a draconian direction, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to at least say in this respect that there are still platforms you can go to maintain your internet safety, your internet sanity, your internet freedom and privacy. Now, of course, I'm obviously referring to Tor, but I found something that is actually a lot more anonymous than just the dark. It's actually the deeper web, if you will, too. So this is actually known as I2P. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what I2P is, I2P very dangerously close to the ICP stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Invisible Internet Project. Now, I've talked about this in the past before, but I've never actually really jumped into this and browsed sort of websites. Now, of course, obviously, no mention of any of this stuff is done without going to things like the Tor browser. So, for instance, if you were browsing the dark web like I have been doing pretty much like every Sunday, there was a period I used to do it every Sunday, you would go to the Tor project, right? So you would go over here, you would find your, Tor browser of choice, Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, whatever. And of course, ultimately firing this up, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to spin up a Windows virtual machine and kind of show you one of the reasons why I've sort of stopped using the dark web. So the moment is, once you actually go to the Tor browser, you open it up, click this, and you connect to the actual, Tor network, right? Now through the Tor network, you can access, actual clear web services like Google. In fact, if you want to seriously browse the web with some privacy, I would recommend using the Tor browser to browse things like Google or again, like any website, so to speak, right? Obviously, it's slow. There is a layer to it that obviously, it is obviously slower to use. As you're running through several like proxies, as you can see. You're running through several nodes. You can see that my browser connects through the United Kingdom, Germany, and Germany again, and then goes to Google. Now, ultimately, the end, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why people use this is because they can access these .onion websites. Now, the reason why I block a lot of Onion websites, from showing them is I've actually had deep web videos removed recently because I guess I linked people to like actual criminal websites, criminal websites in the sense, those like online marketplaces. Not something that I did willingly. It's, just something that happened in like deep web browsing 10 or 11 or something when I was more of a novice at this kind of stuff, just sort of presenting it, if you will. But here, if you go to the hidden wiki, you can see that as soon as you touch the dark web, there's a lot of websites that you can use as search engines, like Amia.fi, which is something that I necessarily use. But then one of the reasons why, dark web browsing kind of stopped, not just because I basically visited every sort of fun website at a time, it's just that a lot of the online dark web places are filled with things like, for instance, brutal search, if you will, too, or, any of these search engines that, necessarily don't block against, searching up illegal material. In fact, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it seems like a vast majority of new websites that pop up are basically just illegal websites. For instance, one of the largest sort of like link lists that you can go to, and again, all of this is basically blocked for you, and the reason why it's blocked is because the most powerful and the most accessed websites and the most popular websites, and unfortunately the most active, are places where illegal material is being traded. And that's not, something that anybody wants to unfortunately engage in, right? In fact, a lot of, link websites that you go to, typically where, I used to go to in order to find the goofy, funny stuff, unfortunately, they don't remove illegal material. So for instance, all of these Onion links are blocked, and unfortunately, some of the names, whereas, if you find something like Ghost Notes, for instance, Ghost Notes is an actual website that you can go to, I guess, to allegedly purchase illegal counterfeit currency, okay? Now, obviously, you shouldn't be buying no illegal currency. That's against the law. And I'm pretty sure all of this shit is a scam, okay? You want to spend $1,200 for an Anon wallet? Bitch, just go buy something a lot cheaper and a lot more safer. I'm sure this comes with a whole bunch of spooky stuff to begin with. But anyways, unfortunately, that is hidden, amongst websites like KidFlix, for instance, which, you don't have to click on these websites to understand that there is something illegal behind it. And unfortunately, the more and more, the dark web has sort of become, I wouldn't say popular, but in recent years, it seems like a lot of the onion relays that get sort of brought out to people are unfortunately filled with all of this illegal stuff. It's very difficult for you to go from all the way from page 1 of something indexed to page 66 and probably not spot at least 80% of these links being linked to illegal material, right? Which is obviously one of the reasons why, look, a lot of people are like, man, I wish you would do dark web browsing every Sunday. And the reality of it is that unless I have something really cool to show you, I probably will. But the reality of it is when you've seen one hitman website, you've seen them all. When you've seen one scam website selling you Glocks, you've probably seen them all. But when all of these lists are filled with actual illegal material and links to it, that's not something you ever want to go. And again, my standard for this stuff is very simple. Fraud GPT, I'm pretty sure this is somebody scamming me to get access to dog shit off-water chat GPT. But when you see something like dark, anything dark on this website, you just don't want to even engage with, because in your head, you obviously have to understand that it's probably linking to something against the law. And that's one of the primary reasons why, a lot of my love for the dark web has kind of diminished. Now, of course, sometimes you'll find goofy websites like, do you know 2 + 2 = 6? There is a third 2 that the government is hiding from you. Really? Did the government hide the 2 + 2 in the equation there? In the early days of the government, they wanted to take control over their citizens. Oh, they're still doing it, okay? They're worse with it now. Most citizens were peasants. We still are. To make sure they didn't take over, they told them lies like 2 + 2 = 4. Eventually, when peasants were more like citizens, governments were the only ones that knew the truth to 2 + 2. Yet governments still choose to hide it because we found out the citizens would take over. So yeah, some real fucking Guy Fawkes mask type wearing bullshit. But anyways, what is the darker, deeper side of the web? Well, let's go to I2P, for instance. Now here I've got a Linux virtual machine, okay, fired up, and instead of using the Tor browser, let's actually get the I2P stuff working. So it's actually quite simple. You can download it for Windows, Linux, BSD, Mac, all day and every day. But really, you want to scroll down on their page, i2p.net, where you go to the downloads. And here they have installation guides for every single operating system, basically under the sun. Me running this underneath Linux, I'm going to go to the Linux installation. Now, if you have Ubuntu Linux, you can basically follow the directions over here. So you can add their repository, you can install the actual package, and basically you can get things up and running basically within like minutes. So I would say it takes probably around 10 minutes at the most for you to populate, but basically once I2P is set to go, you can actually access your I2P router console by going to localhost :7657. Now over here, this is actually I2P, and here is where things actually get a lot more anonymous on the internet. So if you ever wanted to reach real anonymity, using I2P might be the best way going forward. It has a pretty standard email client that you can create a account over and use this to email people on the network. It's got torrenting abilities, so for instance, if you want to share files, like, let's say you want to share that, Linux download with other people. Imagine if you live in a future where the corporations don't want you sharing free and open source software. You can make a torrent and you can share it around. And more privacy than you would expect. One of the reasons why I don't do like VPN sponsorships is a lot of times a VPN sponsorship company will give me like fucking 5 figures and be like, just tell the masses out there that you can be super private. When in reality, VPNs don't really fucking protect your privacy in a lot of cases. Really, if you're using a VPN, you probably want to use them so your actual, ISP doesn't see what the fuck you're doing. Or generally, if you're on Netflix and you want to access like UK Netflix for whatever reason, or US Netflix, you just route yourself to a country, call it a day. But if you're thinking that using a fucking VPN is making you private or safe, dog, that is the biggest, I guess, bullshit that is effectively sold, right? Anyways, all of that stuff aside, you can see that they've got a bunch of community websites. So actually, I guess we can kind of browse something here that, I've seen I2P sites before, but I've never really shown you any of this stuff. I think there might be like 5 minutes of content on my channel about this, which in retrospect is kind of insane given how much dark web browsing that I've done. So over here, they've got like forums once everything is basically loaded and ready to go. And you can see that I'm tunneling to shared clients and EAP sites. The I2P network works similarly to like torrent software, where effectively once you've fired up, you're connected to other people on the network. Basically, people are using some of my network, I'm using some of theirs. And effectively, instead of onion websites, we're basically in our own sort of like encrypted internet, if you will, too, right? I'm trying to simplify everything as much as I can, but let's actually browse some of these sites. So let's load things up really quickly. So you can see now that my I2P has started, the first thing you can probably go to is something like notbob.i2p, simply because it's one of the best places that you can go to get an idea of what websites are visible. So you can see over here that there's over 1,000 active like I2P EAP sites that are available, right? Yes, we call them EAP sites because I get that's just the terminology and name that they've went with. So of course, thankfully over here, they've got everything sort of categorized, as you will. So for instance, conspiracy and evangelism, right? So let's go to one of the first websites like Holy Cows, and then I guess we'll check Scamdemia, right? It's actually kind of going to like a new place. So basically, once you connect to a new website, you can add things to your address book, or you can use like a jump service. So I'm going to use Not Bob's jump service as well. And realistically, I really think I should give him some money for, honestly, like donation aside, simply because, this is all like, community made stuff. So if you really are somebody that's chasing your privacy, remember, this is not ecosystem supported by millions or billions of dollars, right? It very much is a community effort. And of course, while that's also loading, or I guess jumping to, we can go to things like Scamdemia and actually see what this is about too. So again, should add these to the jumper service as we go through. And of course, we'll look at other websites as well too. So for instance, they've got news websites, they've got user forums, which I guess we'll open up some of these and check out ourselves. So yeah, while these are kind of loading up, you can see that the address jumper is not in your address book. Yeah, I guess just continue. Just go do it. I don't really care. Oh, here it is. Ghost R. What is it? Based coin with I2P support? Oh, it's a digital currency based on blockchain technology. So I guess if you want to enable a CPU miner, CUDA miner, I guess you can kind of go down this road. Not what I was expecting with conspiracies, but thank you for at least bringing it up. But basically, this is kind of what an EAP site sort of looks like. So kind of a similar concept to the dark web. In fact, compared to the dark web, actually hosting your own website on this is actually something that you can do. So for instance, if you want to make like an EAP site, you can actually go through the web server here and basically host your own actual domain following the instructions over here too, right? So if you ever wanted to make like a website on, I guess, like the darker web, the even deeper web, if you will, this is where I guess you can go to. You go on to places like this and you find people just hosting their little podcasts over here. So for this guy, the Canary in the Cage podcast, and they link to every like clear web service out there. But I guess this is their like I2P I2P like show, and they're using quotes from like MySpace, by the way, too. So it's the only libertarian podcast teaching you how to do agorism. Oh wait, no, it's actually dead. They got a farewell episode right here, aired 2025. Dog, man, dude. Well, at least I got like. Dude, come on now. I actually thought I came across somebody's show, but it's actually completely dead. Well, at least they got their I2P show up. Jesus. They've also got like Deltarune as an actual like page, but it's been downloading data forever. I don't know if this is the actual original like game running over here. But of course, obviously other websites they got are things like Causeway Corporation. Now, this is entirely new to me. There is no better boat than astrology to cross the sea of problems. Here's a PGP key. Why I love George W. Bush. Okay. All right. He's got like 9/11, 9/11. Also, you can join the IRC server. Maybe another day I'll show you how to connect to chat rooms on I2P. or Tor or whatever. But for now, I'm just gonna keep sticking around here. They got like a few people like Walla, Dave the Wolf, Arm, John Smith. Interesting stuff indeed. So they've actually got like legit like forum posts, I guess, for you to go to. Like I guess today at like 3 in the morning. What is this like? You hate me? Is this a statement? Is it? It's an opinion. You are entitled to your opinion. Do you like me? It's just like a chat log. That's all it is, a chat log. So what is this over here? My hero. Okay, I'm actually really fucking scared to click on this, but I guess we'll go. This takes us to the most R-word blog on the internet. 50 things you have to do in college. Smoke a pipe and respond to each point that the professor makes by waving it and saying, "Quite right, old bean." Wear x-ray specs every few minutes. Ask the professor to focus the overhead projector. Sit in the front row and spend the lecture filing your teeth into sharp points. Yeah, actually, you know what? This blog actually does stand up to its name pretty well. It actually might be the dumbest blog that I've seen on the internet. Again, why this has to exist in I2P is a whole but hey, it's a free world. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And it's better this exists than obviously something illicit, right? Oh, whoa, what the fuck, dude? Not today, man. So they got like a Discord server, which obviously I'm not connecting to. They've got dot files. Fine indeed. Okay, let's see what their Counter-Strike configuration file. Oh, shit. I'm actually downloading somebody's like, let me see what this is. Like, please don't be something fucked up. Oh, it really is just like an entire config file of just actual dog shit. Like, okay, cool, I guess. So like, yeah. Sometimes I wonder what I show you guys on my channel. It is in fact some of the most boring stuff you'll ever see. But at least somebody's got to be digging through this. Somebody's got to be bringing this to the masses. So here's like apocalypse prepping, which I guess is somebody's like prep board, which is partially one of the reasons why you make like these I2P sites, because again, the big spooky government is all around us. But here, back in 2023, this guy was telling us that artificial general intelligence needs us to like speed up a little bit. So this hasn't been updated in quite a fair bit. But basically, it's like an entire prep thing where it's like, after you've read this chapter, you'll come to understand this highly dangerous superhuman AI systems are feasible by 24 to 27. Dog, we got maybe like a year extra on this estimation for AGI to kick in. I mean, current day LLMs, like, they're cool, but like, it's a far cry from the AGI. I don't even see a lot of the big tech billionaire guys using that term as much anymore. Many individuals and shady corporate entities will gain the power to wield them openly or covertly. No, not covertly. All the government has to do is just ban AI access and they just use it all day, every day. What the fuck? Get out of here. But yeah, this is like some dude's prepping website. And again, this is like a Russian like crypto website. So, you get like a mixture of everything, right? Sometimes you'll find the Circle of the Fallen, which is a website for a community of theistic Satanists of all beliefs founded upon mutual respect instead of restrictive beliefs. Community without command, wisdom without dogma, God without... Hail Satan! And hail you, I guess. So here they got like a library. Man, they actually, it's crazy. They have like Discord groups that you could join into. Would I join a Satanist Discord group? Not necessarily for me. But again, I guess if you're a Satanist, they've got all kinds of books for you by Anton LaVey, Michael Aquino. They've got prayer and practice guides, music. What's Satanist music, by the way, too? General, bands that are in on it by Cain Del Sol. It's a spreadsheet by a satanic author to track down and verify as many satanic and occult bands as possible. What? Wait a minute, hold on a second. Is this like the list? Functionally confirmed, directly confirmed. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, they really do have like, I guess every band they're throwing in there. I guess if you're on this list, you're Satanist approved. Wait, what's the other section? You always have to see the other section on these websites. What doesn't fit the rest of this, Like, come on now, give me the other. Oh, it's just like a set of books for other things, like translated text, the occult library, various other scholars, so on and so forth. So yeah, of course, like the I2P, you got like a bit of everything. What is this? Gather your party before venturing forth. I guess you have like a bunch of, oh, short AI generated stories about a hard boiled private eye living in the forgotten realms. Well, you've lost me right here. The AI slop holds no bounds. It's everywhere, unfortunately. Wait, is this actually like Deltarune? Hold on. Would you like to start from chapter one? I mean, I've never actually played Deltarune. I wouldn't really know, but let me just close the audio a little bit. Is this actually like Deltarune, like the game? Is it functioning over the web? I guess that's why it took like forever to install. I'm in like a black screen, unfortunately. And I guess just to balance out some of the Satanism, here's like Jesus's word, obviously thrown up into its own I2P website. And to go back to the devil, of course, we've got one person sharing again their opinions on anonymity. Some people don't believe it. Some think it's for criminals. Well, I do tend to agree that some people don't want it. I don't know if I can share this Keir Starmer like looking like Hitler right now on the actual fucking like. I think I might need a license for that meme, if you will, right? But anyways, I guess let's look at this man talking about yapping about anonymity on the old I2P page, and they really are yapping about this. Again, this is like, just a brief entry into the side of like any of this like stuff on the internet. Is that, look, we are on that sort of fringe escaped part where again anybody can yap about whatever they want. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think going into the future, having the internet be a place where people have the freedom to say what they want to say and share what they want to share, you might have to start looking at obviously things like Tor, but more importantly, things like I2P, if you want to have a place of your own voice up there, right? It's crazy that we're in an era where like the countries that needed to do this, like Iran, for instance, or like China or like North Korea, the rest of the world is slowly entering this phase where we also need to be looking at like anonymous places for us to just freely be ourselves on the wide web around us. But of course, to go back to like Deltarune, for instance, I don't think this is going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it's loading. But I think if I'm gonna have to play Deltarune, I'm gonna probably get it on Steam anyways. And I don't understand why Deltarune has to exist on an EAP site, but it does, and that's a cool part of it. That's just the freedom of the internet, if you will. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, EAP sites are really, really cool. But again, this is sort of like the next layer of anonymity, right? Look, at the end of the day, the dark web, one of the reasons why I don't necessarily go onto Tor is simply because, like I showed you earlier into this video, a lot of it is just unfortunately really illegal crap that is, the more and more you try to do that every week, like explore parts of the internet. It was fun when I was covering the deep web to start, because really there was just a lot of goofy stuff that I never saw. But towards the tail end of it, it just became one of those places where like, dog, if this is the kind of crap you're sifting through, it's just not healthy. The fact that it became, basically so much more popular over the years, like illegal content, is the more I was like, there's just no point coming into it. And honestly, after doing like over 150 of those episodes, being like hours long, I feel like there's enough content to exist, right? Generally, I'll always cover like the Tor browser, but again, it has to be something worth going to. And usually now it's like, unless you get like a juicy video of like cool fun stuff, it's really not worth just jumping into. But EAP sites are actually kind of cool. Much like Tor, these sites do sort of tend to go up and down quite a fair bit. So for instance, one of the things about like Tor browsers is, the websites you saw right now, they could probably not be available in like an hour, in like a day, in like a week. And by the next week that I look at this kind of stuff, if I do, there could just be a whole swath of new websites to go to. I mean, just today, there were like 17 new websites. And of course, honestly, all these websites probably cover a whole different variety of things too. Some of them adult content, some of them like ghost web blogs, some of them being AI pictures, you name it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is actually, I would say, the darker, more encrypted part of the internet. It's definitely a little bit tougher to get into simply because there's more prep and setup involved. But ultimately, if you do get into it, I think that you can probably explore a layer of anonymity that you probably didn't know existed till today. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.